Hello, today we're going to be talking about children instruction, more specifically strategies and interaction, the components. This is Joseph Rodriguez. I am a secondary ESL instructional specialist. Our objectives today for this session, the content objectives, the teacher will be able to identify essential components of shelter instruction, stages, strategies, and interaction. The teacher will be able to learn about language development activities that will be able to build second language acquisition within the content areas of math, science, history, and English. Language objectives. The teacher will be able to listen, read, write, and talk about language development activities that could be used to foster second language acquisition for ELLs in their content areas. The teacher will be able to share using technology the language development that they use and their results from using their language development activity in their own content area classroom. The strategies for shared instruction include metacognitive, thinking about thinking, cognitive active learning, social affective interactive learning, questioning techniques, higher order thinking, scaffolding techniques, building independence. Metacognitive strategies, thinking about your thinking, predicting, inferring, self-questioning, monitoring, clarifying, evaluating, summarizing, visualizing. Cognitive strategies, active learning, previewing, rereading, establishing a purpose for reading, making connections, reading aloud, highlighting, taking notes, mapping information, finding key vocabulary, mnemonics. Social affective strategies, interactive learning, interaction questioning, cooperative learning, group discussion, self-talk, think, pair, share. And these activities will be further discussed later on in the session. Some of the behaviors that teachers want to avoid when interacting with ELLs is having purely lectures. You want to focus on the main ideas, and you can do that using class activities, using group activities where the students discuss themselves based upon class notes on what's being asked for them in the activity, and that way the teacher is not just the only one talking. You don't want to do long reading assignments. For example, having the students read out loud, doing like a round robin. That wouldn't really be beneficial for an ELL student because that would have raised their affective filter, and this would inhibit the students from learning the language. They'll be more afraid and shy. So you want to focus on essential details, like I said, using clause notes and a graphic organizer. You also want to refrain from immediately correcting the student. If a student makes a mistake when talking, just repeat it. But what they say, but repeat it using the right way. And you want to also allow them some wait time, because you don't want to just assume that you want to validate their contribution. Assuming students have prior knowledge, don't assume that the students already know a certain concept. Discover the students' prior knowledge through sharing activities, getting them to turn and talk, which is a variation of the think, pair, share. That's trying to activate their prior knowledge using KWLs. And KWL is a graphic organizer. It has K stands for what students already know, what they want to know, and what they would learn. Interaction is more effective when students have an opportunity to participate fully, discussing ideas and information using language domain skills such as listening, reading, speaking, and writing. Effective teachers strive to provide a more balanced linguistic exchange between themselves and their students. Students need to practice speaking, not only speaking but writing and listening and reading. So interaction accesses the thought process of another and solidifies one's own thinking. It clarifies their own understanding if you have them involved in a group activity, and when they have to explain it, that's what cements their learning. Talking to others, either in a pair or small group, allows for oral rehearsal of learning. This one particular one, encourage more elaborate responses. Don't just accept one word answers. Have them talking complete sentences. Use sentence stems if you need to. Varying grouping configurations. You can have small groups, uh, uh, pairs, triads, cooperative grouping, homogeneous grouping, heterogeneous grouping, grouping by gender, grouping by language performance, uh, uh, and whole group, small group. Just vary the way you group the students. Allow for sufficient wait time. I would suggest giving the students 10 seconds, count in your head, that way you evaluate the students' understanding, their contribution, and don't just accept that if the student says, I don't know. You know, have options where students can can say, based upon some sentence stems that students can say, may I have more time? May I phone a friend so to get assistance from a classmate? Uh, you can say, you can have them say, uh, could you rephrase the question, or can you direct me and where can I find out more information about it? Also, you can clarify concepts in the student's L1 if you know the student's L1. So, for example, if you have a lot of your class is predominantly Hispanic and you happen to know Spanish, is it it is recommended that you try to communicate with them in English first, but you could use Spanish as a modality to help the students, but don't rely on Spanish, because then the students will always want to talk to you in Spanish. The language development activities that we're going to be talking about in this session that focuses on interaction for SIOP, social instruction. It is the stand up, hand up, pair up, inside outside circle, think pair share, fan and pick, quiz trade. This particular activity is called stand up, hand up, pair up. As where the before the teacher says go, and he or she tells the students what they're gonna do, and this is what they're gonna do. Students are gonna stand up, and they're gonna raise one hand in the air, and then with their hand raised up, they're gonna quickly find a partner, and then when they see that partner they wanna pair up with, they're gonna high five that partner, and then they're gonna wait for instructions from the teacher. But I would suggest going through this first, you know, preloading, front loading the student with the instructions and direction modeling for the student before you actually have them conduct this activity.
I was trained in Kagan Cooperative Learning this past summer, and it's totally changed my classroom environment. Students are engaged, they're all working with each other. The Kagan structure I used in this video is stand up, hand up, pair up, and it's exactly what it sounds like. Students stand up, they put their hand up, and then they pair up with someone else in the class. And with the task cards, I mean, the students had to pair up with every single other person in the class. During the structure, each student was kind of in charge of their own problem. So then they would kind of trade problems, they'd do each other's, and it was really nice because each student, I checked the answer to their problem before we started the structure. So they knew before they paired up that they could help someone with their problem. They knew they had the correct answer. So even the students who kind of struggle with math, at least they knew, okay, I know this one problem, and that can get them through the rest. It's really nice because during the structure, I was kind of freed up, so I could just wander around, listen in on conversations. If I noticed a student was really struggling, I could kind of pull them aside for a few minutes and work with them. They really start to just depend on each other, and they become so much more comfortable asking each other for help versus always coming to me with all the questions. Versus the traditional method, I mean, normally a math teacher would probably just say, okay, turn to page 50 in your book and do problems 1 through 28. Well, yeah, they would have done the same 28 problems, but through that, there may have been, 20 hands up in the class at the same time, like, oh, I don't get this one, I don't get this one. And during that, there's no way I could help all 30 kids at the same time. The content was exactly the same. They still did 28 math problems. They got a lot of practice dividing fractions, but instead of me having to be the person reteaching to every student and checking to make sure they got it right, they were kind of being their own teachers to each other.
This language development activity is called inside-outside circle, and what we have to do here is the students pair up and form a circle. One of the pairs face your partner, thus forming an inside circle. The inside circle will discuss an issue, and the outside circle will will take the opposite point of view of the issue that you're discussing. And when the teacher says start, those in the inside circle will talk for 30 seconds on the topic, followed by those in the outside circle for another 30 seconds. When you hear the teacher say move, the person on the outside circle will move in one space clockwise and have to discuss with their new partner. When the teacher says swap, the people on the inside circle will swap places with those on the outside and now have to discuss their opposite point of view. I will also at this time incorporate a video that illustrates more on the strategy inside outside circle.
Class. Good morning, Miss Ruth. Today we're going to do our inside outside circle.
Yes.
And we're going to be reviewing our vocabulary from chapters 1 through 3. Our first step, like you remember, is we split the class in half. Now, each of you are going to stand in a circle with your backs facing each other, with your vocabulary word ready to quiz your other partner. Your label is partner A. The second half of the class is going to come and stand on the outside of the first circle. So this is called our inside circle and our outside circle. Partner A, when I say go and start the timer, you will have 30 seconds to read your vocabulary word or your question to partner B. Partner B will then have a few seconds to respond and answer the question on partner A's card. When I say stop, or if you finish before, what I'd like for you to do is raise your hand to tell me that you're done. When the timer goes off, partner B is then going to read the question on his or her card. Partner A will then also have 30 seconds to respond and answer the question. Conclusion. What I'd like for you to do now is rotate clockwise. So Kaylee, you're going to stand in front of Blake. Eddie, you're going to stand in front of Gibby. Everyone is going to rotate to the left. Now, just like we did with your last partner, partner A is going to read your question to partner B. Partner B will then have 30 seconds to respond, and then as the timer goes off, you will rotate and partner B will ask your question. Any questions?
The next learn language development activity we could use for interaction of the shelter instruction model is the activity called Think Pair Share. The teacher presents a question or a problem, Students are given time to think about the content. Then students are asked to pair up either with a shoulder partner or with another different type of configuration to interact over the question or the content that was posed to the students. Then lastly, the students share their responses with others in the class. And now I will also uh, further illustrate this by incorporating a video that further explains or illustrates the think, pair, share activity.
I want you to turn and talk to your partner about how people felt about slavery. What were the different opinions about slavery during that time?
I think she knows some black people wanted to have slavery and not have it. So how can they say how can they not?
Okay, can I have one person tell me what their partner said about the different opinions about slavery? Eric.
Alfie thinks it's fine, but slavery is fine.
Alfie thinks that slavery is fine? Is that what Alfie said?
Not exactly. I kind of think the South people think it's fine, and the North people don't think it's fine.
Okay.
This particular language development activity is called fan and pick. Student 1 holds a question cards in a fan type way and says take a card to another student. Student 2 picks a card, reads the question aloud, and allows 5 seconds of think time. Student 3 answers the question. Student 4 totals or praises the student answering the question by saying great, excellent, great job. Students rotate roles, one person clockwise for each new round. And now I will further illustrate this by incorporating a video on fan and pick.
2 plus 56.
Sorry, were they some upside down somewhere? Yeah, that's fine. She can find one from there.
Yes. Good job. 6 minus 7. Yes. Pick a card, any card. $231 minus 89. Plus. Yeah, plus. $231 plus 89. Good job. Yay! Yeah, this is
This next language development activity is called quiz trade, and there's a very lot of variations to do quiz trade. What it essentially this activity is, where the students are going to review their concepts or content by quizzing each other, where one student holds the information and the other student tries to determine their the knowledge of the content by the students giving them questions to quiz them, and then after that the students are going to trade their cards with their partner. One particular example of this is when they're talking about percentages. And this example that we have right here, it says take a statement from the center of your table. Choose your percentage of your agreement from 0 to 100%. Totally agree, 100%. Totally disagree, 0%. Stand up, hand up, pair up with someone holding a different colored paper. Share a statement of your 100% agreement in reasoning and listen to your partner's statement. 100% agreement. What is your percentage of agreement in reasoning? 1 minute per pair up. Wait for announcement to switch partners. 4 total pair ups. We will revisit these statements later. So that was one variation of quiz trade. So another video will be proceeding after this and talks about more about quiz trade and how it's used in the classroom.
I want to go to Jason's birthday party. I want to go to Jason's birthday party. That's correct. I'm very intelligent. Your turn. I got to experience how to A, I got to B, experience how C, missing punctuation. Oh, thank you for the credit. So what is the correct answer? A. Sorry, I thought you agreed because it's easier for me. It said, thank you for the credit and then shouting it out. It's very nice working with you. I got to experience
Oh, good job. Are you guys having to congratulate each other? There you go.
She's the amazing person. Thank you for the present.
Good job. My favorite comment. A. Period. Oh, you are doing a great job at coaching. Thank you very much.
Choose a section of this sentence that uses a capital letter. If there is no mistake, choose none. I want to go to Jason's birthday party. I want to do A. Go to Jason's C. birthday party on D. None. You're correct. Oh yeah.
Choose a selection of the sentence that needs a capital letter. If there is no mistake, choose none. When will it be time for me to go to recess? Well, there is times to have a capitalization. Oh, I thought you said correct.
Choose the section of the sentence that has been misspelled. If there is no mistake, choose the
Okay, so now we talked about criss trade. We talked about hand up, pair up, hand up, stand up, hand up, pair up. We talked about think, pair, share. I want you to use one of these language development activities in your classroom, and next week before we meet again for our follow-up meeting, I want you to post online on the Padlet link that's displayed on the screen, and on which language development activity you use in your classroom, in your content area, and provide some feedback to us as far as what were the results. Also, after posting, look at other teacher comments and see what they did and their feedback, and make a post to their comment. We want to try to see if we can make positive comments. Remember, but use the Padlet app and the Padlet link that I have displayed on the screen. Thank you. This concludes our session on shelter instruction strategies and interaction. I want to thank you very much for listening and participating. And if you have any additional concerns or questions, feel free to email me at joseph.rodriguez@gcisd.net.
Another turning point, a fork stuck in the road. Time grabs you by the wrist, directs you where to go. So make the best of this test and don't ask why. It's not a question but a lesson learned in time. It's something unpredictable, but in the end is right. I hope you had the time of your life. So take the photographs and still frames in your mind, hanging on a shelf in good health and good time. Tattoos of memories and dead skin on trial. For what it's worth, it was worth all the while. It's something unpredictable, but in the end is right. I hope you had the time of your life.